It's finally here! Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble is the first brand new mainline entry in the Monkey Ball series in 12 years. That's pretty crazy considering that 12 years before that, the series didn't even exist yet. Sure, we've more recently had some spin-offs, remasters and remakes, most notably with Banana Blitz HD and Banana Mania, but a fully original new title was definitely long overdue. This brand new entry in the series aims to take all of the best elements from the old and new titles alike, while also offering its own creative spin on the ball rolling formula. But does it actually succeed in this mission? Let's dive in and take a look. Interestingly, Banana Rumble is currently a Nintendo Switch exclusive, which is a bit weird considering that the past few entries have been multi-platform. But the reason for this is apparently so that they could really focus in on making the online components of the game as stable as possible, which is easier if the game is only available on a single platform. It was also stated that if the game performs well, that it could come to other consoles in the future. So there's still some hope out there that you'll be able to get your little grubby monkey paws on this game if you don't own a Switch, but you might just need to wait a while. First impressions here start off extremely strong with a fully animated cutscene introducing us to Ai and the gang who are having fun on Juicy Island. They're eating bananas, chilling and generally having a good time, but a mysterious monkey called Palette appears and ruins the fun by stealing a banana from Ai. And if there's one thing that gets Ai moving, it's banana thievery. We then get this short tutorial sequence where Ai is giving chase after the banana thief, which teaches us the basic controls. And what's great about this is that it's actually fully playable, unlike the tutorials in the original games which weren't interactive. Palette turns out to just be having a bit of fun though, and teaches Ai and the gang how to do a spin dash move, Sonic the Hedgehog style. This allows you to accelerate way quicker than usual and even redirect your movement, even when rolling at speed. Also, is it pronounced Palette or Palette? I know it's a play on words with the name being like a paint palette, but I've been calling her Palette this whole time. Now it feels weird saying palette. Whatever, I guess. I was a little bit worried that this spin dash move would be another terrible gimmick that ends up taking away from the simplicity of the original game's controls, just like the jumping did in Banana Blitz. But I actually ended up really liking the spin dash. It feels much more like a natural extension of the standard controls and actually requires a degree of skill to use properly, with you being able to perform small boosts by holding the B button for a shorter amount of time, or really go for it with a big boost by holding it for longer and fully charging yourself up. There's a slight cooldown too, which prevents you from spamming it too much, and you can't use it while you're in the air. So you still need to rely on your positioning, momentum and stage tilting to pull off some of the fancier skips. The overarching plot of the game becomes about helping Palette to find a lost father who she suspects went missing while searching for a treasure called the legendary banana. This is said to grant infinite bananas to whoever discovers it, but can cause treasure hunters to become cursed due to their obsession with it. Ai is drawn in by the thought of infinite bananas though and decides to help, thus setting off our adventure. Wait a minute, Palette said that her dad taught her how to spin dash and that he's always looking for treasure, and who else do we know who can spin dash and is normally found looking for the Chaos Emeralds? Sonic the Hedgehog. Clearly her dad is none other than Sonic. I figured out the plot twist there for sure. There's actually a lot of cutscenes in this game, with one at the start and the end of all 10 worlds, and these introduce us to several new characters to the series, including the Gala family of treasure hunters, Fez, T and Val, and the mysterious phantom thief, Easel. While the story never becomes anywhere near as interesting or off the wall as the one seen in Super Monkey Ball 2, it's easily the second best story mode of any Monkey Ball game, and it's nice seeing characters like Yan Yan and Doctor have the moments in the spotlight alongside the series' original cast members. The presentation of the game remains pretty awesome, even in the menus. The actual initial main menu screen is actually a little bit boring and generic, but when you select one of the main gameplay modes, you enter a sort of separate main menu for that particular mode, where you can access the adventure mode, battle mode, character customization, the points shop, look at the side mission objectives, view unlocked content like cutscenes and music, and go into the gameplay options menu. What's great about this menu though is that you can see all of the monkeys having fun in the background in the little campsite setup, and you can swap to different camera angles to look at what each of the different monkeys are doing, and it's just really charming. I kinda wish that the initial main menu was just built into this campsite menu, because the first impression you get is that the menus aren't gonna look very good, but that turns out to be completely wrong. I know it might seem a bit weird that I'm talking about the menus for so long, but it's so awesome to see a Monkey Ball game put some effort in this area. They could have easily have made this an area where they cut corners. But now, let's move on and talk about the way that the game's structured. Banana Rumble follows the same world-by-world structure as found in games like Banana Blitz. It also follows the more recent tradition of scrapping the life system completely, which I'm in two minds about. On one hand, it makes the game far more accessible and means that more players will get to see more of what the game has to offer, but on the other hand, it loses some of its main appeal from the original games, where the main objective was seeing how far into the game you could get with a limited amount of lives and continues. In order to see more of the game, you had to actually get good and master the earlier stages, and for me, there's a massive appeal in seeing that skill progression. Luckily though, Banana Rumble does offer something that increases the overall difficulty and adds in replay value via a different method. There's 3 different side missions that can be completed in each level. One for finishing the level under a strict time limit, another for gathering the majority of the bananas scattered in the stage, and a final one for finding and reaching the golden banana, which is normally placed in a more difficult or hidden area. These objectives are great because they make you play through the game in quite a few different ways, which really gets you acquainted with the design and can even teach you new tricks which will come in handy in the later levels. This mission system isn't the only thing that gives the banana collectibles value either, because each one you collect will also add to your points, which you can spend in the store. This is awesome to see because I feel like the bananas in Banana Mania lacked purpose because of the removal of lives and an overarching score system, so it's good to see them remedy this in Banana Rumble in their own original way. The shop itself is very similar to the one found in Banana Mania, but this time there's even more things to unlock, with more clothes, characters, balls, spin dash effects, decorations for the menu, frames and emotes for the photo mode, messages to use in the online modes, and more. Even after finishing the main game and completing quite a lot of the side missions, I still have a lot left to unlock, which is awesome because it keeps you wanting to play to see everything it's got to offer. But we all know that Monkey Ball lives and dies by its level design and its controls, so how does it actually play? The feel of the game is pretty much spot on. The controls are responsive and tight, which is super important in a game all about precision, and you actually have way more customization than ever before, with you able to enable motion controls, customize the analog stick dead zones, and even completely rebind the inputs of the controller if there's something you don't like with the default settings. Even on top of the controls, you have so much other stuff to customize too, with things like removing the message that offers to turn on helper mode if you fall off of the stage a few times, which of course I wanted to remove because I'm just that much of a pro monkey baller. You can also adjust the size of subtitles, remove or add in HUD elements like the map, speedometer, or choose to display the side missions on the screen, and it's just amazing that they thought of all of this stuff. It's really, really impressive. Now listen, I know I just hated on the helper mode, but jokes aside, this is an incredible feature to have included for more inexperienced players or people that just need a bit of assistance with a particular stage. It also makes it even more accessible for anyone with a type of disability, which is just amazing. The helper mode activates a ghost player that guides you towards the goal, gives you checkpoints throughout the level so you don't need to restart from the very beginning, and even gives you a rewind feature so that you can go back in time slightly if you mess up. I feel like this could even potentially come in handy for experienced players in order for them to practice their strategies on more difficult levels. I'm also happy to report that the game runs at 60 FPS pretty solidly, although I do have to admit that there are a handful of levels that actually cause it to stutter to a noticeable degree. This doesn't happen frequently at all though, and it's probably something that could be addressed in a future update, so it's reasonably easy to ignore. But now, let's get down to the main appeal of Monkey Ball, which is of course, the levels. Now, I'm not gonna lie, for about the first 7 worlds, I was quite concerned that the game was too easy and a little bit too basic with its level design. It was mostly consistent of flat levels which looked fairly uninteresting and were very easy to navigate. While they did feature a variety of gimmicks, some returning from the older games like teleportation portals, switches that activate parts of the environment, and seesaws that tilt with your weight, alongside some new gimmicks like these physics-based objects which you can actually manipulate by rolling into them, or these jump pads which blast you up into the air. It just didn't feel like any of this was being utilised to its full potential. However, at around World 8 is where things started feeling more like old school Monkey Ball, and where the game suddenly shot way up in quality. Some of these levels literally felt like throwbacks to levels found in the original games, but with their own twist on things to keep them fresh. And of course, the vast majority of them are just brand new concepts entirely that truly feel like they belong among the classic level lineup. Now, does it take a little bit too long to actually get to this point in the game? I would say that it definitely did for me. However, we've got to remember that at this point, Monkey Ball is aimed at more than just the experienced hardcore fans, and also has a massive audience of newer, more casual players. So the only way of keeping both of these audiences happy is to have a large selection of both easier and more difficult levels. Plus, it's worth remembering that even the easy levels can be deceptively difficult once you go in for the side missions. So if you're looking for a challenge, it's definitely still there even in the early game content. You might be thinking at this point though, wow, if it only starts truly getting good at World 8, that means there's only 30 difficult levels? Well, that's where you're wrong, buddy boy. Banana Rumble technically features 20 worlds, each with 10 levels, meaning that there's 200 levels in total. The main game actually ends after finishing the first 10 worlds, but then you unlock the EX versions of previous worlds that offer much more challenging levels within the same world theme. This actually means that Banana Rumble has much more of the difficult, sort of classic Monkey Ball style levels than the easier levels. But it just takes a little while to actually get to them and unlock them. Seriously though, some of these levels are amazing. This slide one where you can blast off of the edge to take a huge shortcut by landing later in the level is awesome, and this one where there's a series of rotating loops that you can either go through or land on top of is insane, and there's actually a really good number of memorable stages. There's even one where you need to traverse some text that says Monkey Ball, which is a cute homage to the original game where you go across the SEGA logo. If I was to complain about the main game at all, it would probably be that in an ideal world, you would have unlocked a sort of classic challenge mode game type after finishing the main game. Here you would have to do a marathon of levels, and it would bring back the life and score system from the original games. But unfortunately, this doesn't exist. While it does actually unlock a marathon mode, it's basically just a time attack style thing where you do all of the levels as fast as possible. To the game's credit though, the online leaderboards are really good. You can do a time attack for each world individually and get a rank based on your position on the global leaderboards, or just compete with a friend's time. You can even download another player's ghost data so that it feels like you're more directly competing with them, and maybe this would even help you to learn new strategies based on what the best players in the world do. The main game here actually turns out to be pretty incredible, and I wasn't even expecting too much going into this because the pre-release marketing didn't really make it look very good, but seriously, you shouldn't sleep on this. However, we all know that a big part of Monkey Ball is the minigames, so what's going on in that area? Well, technically there's nothing going on with the minigames. That's right, there are no traditional minigames at all in Banana Rumble because they instead chose to concentrate on an online battle mode instead. This battle mode is seemingly one of the main focuses of the entire game too, with the Banana Rumble subtitle clearly referring to this mode specifically. So what is this all about? Well, what we've got here is an online focused mode where 16 players take part in one of 5 game types. We've got Race, Banana Hunt, Baboom, Robot Smash and Goal Rush. Race is basically a normal monkey ball level that's super long and has checkpoints along the way, and the first person to the goal wins. Banana Hunt is where players compete to grab as many bananas as possible within a time limit, with gimmicks like banana clouds appearing, and a fever mode happening at the end of each match. Baboom is where a certain number of players start by holding a bomb and need to pass it to another player without one before the timer runs out. Robot Smash is where 2 teams have to roll into robots to deal damage to them, and the team with the most damage dealt at the end of the match wins. And finally, Goal Rush is where 2 teams roll down a hill and need to go through goals which each have a score attached to them, with the more difficult to reach goals being worth more points, and the team with the highest score at the end winning. This is all actually quite good on a surface level, and I actually like how there's a proper online ranking system where you gain experience points which levels you up and unlocks new cosmetic items for you to wear both online and in the single player mode. It is very strange seeing a season system like the one found in games like Fortnite or Fall Guys though, and I worry about how much this game is actually going to be supported post-release, because at the moment the single biggest issue with this online mode is that hardly anyone seems to be playing it. I got the game on release day and I literally purchased the only single copy of the game that my local store got in. So clearly they weren't expecting it to do very well, and that's definitely reflected when you play online because I've never had a match with more than 4 other actual players. The rest of the 16 players that aren't humans seem to be replaced with bots, which all have these weird sort of randomized names that are just a jumble of letters and numbers. So it's fairly easy to tell who is a real player and who isn't. But this situation is actually quite sad. SEGA clearly had high hopes that this game would have a somewhat active player base. Naming the entire game after this online mode and offering a season system implies that they wanted to keep adding support for this game over time. But I worry as to whether that's actually gonna happen at this point, and if the online mode becomes abandoned, it effectively removes a massive part of the game. The matchmaking is also incredibly slow, with it taking upwards of 2 minutes to get into a match sometimes, and it frequently disconnecting in the matchmaking process, which is infuriating. You also can't do local split screen in the online mode either, which kinda sucks because this alone could have added a few more players to each game. Adding to the problems with the online mode though is the fact that it only runs at 30 FPS despite the main game running at 60. Not only is this extremely jarring visually, but it also affects the feel of the game too. It's like there's a pretty significant delay with the controller inputs when you play online, which makes movement ridiculously imprecise. And I'm not sure if this is due to the 30 FPS or if the online mode also adds in a bit of lag. I'm really hoping that some kind of update happens to address this, but I doubt that the Switch version will ever run at 60 FPS online because there's probably some kind of back-end reason it can't do this. To be honest, I suspect that despite this being a Switch exclusive at the moment, it was actually made with more powerful hardware in mind. The graphics aren't all that impressive from a purely technical standpoint, and it almost looks like everything has been downscaled from a higher quality source, as opposed from being made from the ground up as a Switch game. However, despite the slightly rough edges with the visuals, it doesn't look awful and it is somewhat carried by its art style. I can only hope that if this does come out on other systems, that the online is cross-play across every platform, because that would massively increase the player base. But, quite frankly, I don't know if SEGA would commit to doing that with Monkey Ball. It's also a bit insulting that they're offering paid DLC in the form of the SEGA Pass, which gives you instant access to Sonic as a playable character, and allows you to download other characters like Tails, Knuckles and Amy from Sonic the Hedgehog, Axel from Crazy Taxi and Beat from Jet Set Radio when they become available later down the line. It also gives you 15 clothing items based on other SEGA franchises for the monkeys, again when they're actually made available. But the massive issue is that it costs a whopping £22.49, which is literally more than half the cost of the game itself. This especially sucks considering that in Banana Blitz HD you actually got Sonic as a free unlockable character just by playing the game. And in Banana Mania, you unlocked Sonic, Bee, and Kazuma from the Yakuza series, who isn't even in Banana Rumble at all. If they were gonna charge that much, I feel like you not only should have got Sonic as a character, but also an entire world, an EX world, based on the Sonic universe. That would have been incredible, and would have actually have made the DLC worth it. Just imagine rolling around Crazy Taxi and Jet Set Radio worlds in a Monkey Ball game. That would have been insane. But let's not end the video on a negative, because there is in fact local multiplayer options at our disposal here. You can do the battle mode with friends locally, but to be honest this probably isn't actually all that great, because the carnage of having 16 players in the online battle mode can't really be replicated by a maximum of 4 players locally. And yeah, you can have bots, but it's just not the same. Where the local multiplayer truly shines is in the way that for the first time in the series' history, you can finally play the actual adventure mode in full-on simultaneous co-op. And it's not even just locally that you can do this, but you can even do it online too. Although I am yet to see a single person host an adventure mode game. It's still an awesome touch that you can do this though. The local co-op adventure mode is really good for doing the side missions too, because you can actually sort of cheese certain things. For example, if one player jumps off of the stage to get an awkwardly placed golden banana, but the other player finishes the level by reaching the goal, the golden banana objective is still considered completed. Also, when you're trying to collect all of the bananas in a stage, your banana total is shared between players, meaning that by playing in split screen, you can split up and collect bananas on separate ends of the level, making it far quicker and easier than doing it on your own. It's even a lot of fun trying to do the levels fast together, because if one of you falls off or messes up, you can still be rooting for the other player to reach the goal in time. I absolutely love that they included this, and it's something I've been wanting from the series literally since the very first game, so I'm extremely happy that it's finally here. It does kinda make me wish that there was a completely separate co-op focused mode though, which actually had levels designed around there being 2 players. Maybe each player has to reach their own goal, and there could be levels with switches that affect the layout of another person's path, so that you need to communicate with each other to progress. That would have been awesome. But still, I'm just happy that we've finally got co-op in the main adventure mode. And plus, this is the only game in the series where you can play as Dr. Bad Boon, which instantly makes me love it. So, Banana Rumble is a bit of a mixed bag, but where does it stand in my trademarked Super Monkey Ball series ranking? You know what, despite its rarely apparent flaws, particularly with its online battle mode replacing the traditional minigames, which with hindsight was probably a mistake, I actually really like Banana Rumble, and I'm going to place it in 3rd place in my series ranking. Now, hear me out. While you could very easily argue that both Deluxe and Banana Mania are better games overall, my issue with those is that they're kind of at a disadvantage by being enhanced versions or remakes of the original 2 games, which are already the best games in the series. If I ever want to go back to the original games, I'm just going to play the originals. I'm never going to choose Deluxe or Banana Mania over them unless I'm specifically in the mood for those versions. However, Banana Rumble offers something that the originals don't. It's got 200 original levels, the spin dash move gives the game its own identity, the co-op mode is amazing, and the side missions give you loads of reasons to go back and master the levels. When the online mode is working and you're playing with some actual people, it is quite fun. And the ranking system does incentivize playing it, which is nice to see. And the added bonuses of having tons of customization elements and a nice menu interface is awesome. It does have some major issues though. One thing I would say is that the music is very forgettable. Not only is it not all that catchy, but it just sounds a bit generic and lacks a distinct style to give the game its own identity. The EX versions of the worlds don't even have their own music and just use the same tracks from the standard levels, which is a bit of a shame. And this is coming from the same series as the first two games, which feature some of my favourite video game soundtracks ever made. Even Steppenroll had a great soundtrack, and it was even dynamic, with it adding in more instrumentation as you progressed through the world you were in, which was so cool. Why did they never do that again? Still, Banana Rumble is definitely carried by its single player mode, which features some of the best level designs we've seen from the series in years, and it has rock solid controls too. Even with all of my complaining, I can't take that away from it. If all you're interested in is getting more Monkey Ball levels and you're not bothered about the minigames or online components, then this is going to be a blast. But that wraps up my thoughts on Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble. Have you played it yet? And if so, what do you think? And if you haven't got it yet, then please go out and get it because I need these online servers to be populated. Thanks. If you enjoyed the video, then give it a like and subscribe for more stuff like this coming soon, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!